So if you haven't heard by now, you're probably living under a rock, but Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 got announced, as well as Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion, which is going to be a faithful remaster of Crisis Core from the PSP. Super exciting stuff. We got some details to talk about both these games here in this video. So if you guys do enjoy this one, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe for more. We do a variety of gaming content here on the channel, talking about the games and playing the games, the best of both worlds. So be sure to stick around. And of course, when the games come out, we're going to be playing them here on the channel, Lord willing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really pumped. So to kick this video off, let me just start off by saying that we're getting a lot of Final Fantasy, man. We are getting Final Fantasy Crisis Core Reunion later this year in this winter. We're going to be getting Final Fantasy 16 next summer. We're going to be getting Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, which is called Rebirth. We're going to talk about that as well next winter. So we're getting like 2 Final Fantasy games next year. In a span of like 12 months, give or take, you know, roughly, we're going to be getting about 3 Final Fantasy games. Big Final Fantasy games. It's not including Final Fantasy 14 expansion and all that. So it's a really good time to be a Final Fantasy fan. Plus Kingdom Hearts 4, which is in development. Who knows when that comes out, though? That could probably be another 10 years for all we know, right? So let's not bank on that one. So let's first of all, I'll talk about Crisis Core, okay? Because we got Crisis Core that got announced as a remaster. We talked about that. They're calling it Reunion. If you never played Crisis Core, it was on the PSP originally. It's going to be coming to PlayStation, I believe both PS5 and PS4. Yeah, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox S, Xbox One, Steam, and Nintendo Switch, which I think is great. They also have that other Final Fantasy kind of 7 remake. What was it called again? I'm drawing a blank. Right, I think Ever Crisis, I think it was what it was called. It's going to be a mobile game. I think that game would have been great on the Nintendo Switch. My buddy Frank said the same thing in our Discord, which, by the way, there's a Discord link in the description below if you want to check it out. But anyway, so let me show you guys this from the official PR press release of Crisis Core. So if we take a look at this is what it says. It's talking about, you know, how it was announced and how it's a remaster of the PlayStation Portable exclusive Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. So the only way to play this game, you know, previously was exclusive to PSP, but now it's going to be on like all these different platforms with the remaster, which is insane. It was a 2007 action RPG and whatnot. They're calling it Reunion. It's a true remaster, they're saying. It follows the original story of Soldier First Class Zack Fair on his mission to find missing soldier Genesis Rhapsodos, if I'm pronouncing that name right, unraveling the stories of Cloud, Sephiroth, Aerith, Tifa, and more. So a lot of the kind of iconic characters that we've come to love in Final Fantasy VII. It's kind of like a prequel. It's kind of a backstory, right? Really exciting stuff. So it's going to be launching this winter. They don't say exactly when. On, like I said, PS5, PS4, you know, all the Xbox consoles, PC, and Switch, which is really cool. So really exciting stuff. Honestly, again, a lot of people were hoping for this remaster. Unfortunately, myself, I never finished the game. I did start playing it and whatnot. Maybe I'll go back and just kind of, you know, hammer through it real fast before it comes out so I can, you know, truly compare to the remaster. But you know, speaking of comparisons, if you take a look at this screenshot right here, I'll throw it up on screen. This is something they posted as well. This gives you a little bit of a look at the comparison. So the bottom picture is the PSP version, and the top picture, of course, is the remaster version. So the remaster version obviously looks way better. It looks really, really good. I mean, you guys can see the trailer up on screen as well that I've been playing off and on through this segment, but it looks really good. Maybe not as good as Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it still looks really, really good. And it seems that I think it's less turn-based this time. I don't know. They didn't go into a lot of details, but it seems to be suggesting that based on the gameplay we've seen. But either way, I'm really excited about it. It looks phenomenal, and there's a lot to get pumped for regarding Crisis Core Remaster. If you never played it, you should definitely check it out if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, because like I said, it's a little bit of backstory, kind of a prequel, if you will, and it can fill in some kind of gaps from the past, and, you know, where some of these iconic characters like Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, and all them came from. So moving on from that, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, because this one is called Rebirth, which at first kind of threw me for a little curveball when they were announcing it, because I didn't have captions turned on. I tried to turn it on, but I was watching it on the official Final Fantasy YouTube, which apparently didn't have English captions. I don't know. Forget it. The point is, I was a little confused at first because they were calling it Rebirth. It looked like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, and it actually is. So they also announced there's going to be a trilogy. So this is going to be the second game of a trilogy. So Final Fantasy VII Remake is you know what we were calling Part 1, is the first of a trilogy. Rebirth is the sequel. It's the second entry that follows Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, they said they'll explain later on why they're calling Rebirth and not Part 2, and why the first game was called Remake. But for this one, there's some tidbits we got from a few of the people working on the game, especially Nomura, which I'm sure a lot of you guys here on this channel are very familiar with, you know, between Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts. So let's take a look at what they said. I'll throw it up on screen. This is the first part from Nomura, saying that as revealed on the broadcast, there are currently 4 Final Fantasy VII projects being developed in parallel. So again, they got a bunch of different stuff going on. He's saying how they each, you know, kind of play a different role. They're all connected through the high quality depictions of Final Fantasy VII's world and characters and all that. And he keeps going, you know, on to talk about, you know, the development of each one and the process for all the titles, and that he's actively involved in all of them. He says that Rebirth is being designed so that people can enjoy this game whether they know the original game or not. He says, in fact, new players might even enjoy starting their Final Fantasy VII journey with Rebirth. He says Cloud and his friends embark on a new journey in this game, and he believes that the scenes that they witness after leaving Midgar will give players a fresh new experience. One quick thing before we go on to the next part of his quote is that it's very interesting that he says that, because a lot of people are saying, you know, oh, you know, we're paying another $70 for just a Part 2 or something. Well, no, this game is going to be a game in and of itself. Just like Remake Part 1 felt like a conclusive game, but there's a more of a story to it, kind of like how they do with Kingdom Hearts. That's kind of their take. I know we kind of got a full story in the original Final Fantasy VII, but again, this is a whole reimagining of the game. Throw up the second part of the quote. He goes on to say that he's anticipating you know, the time that comes where they share the intention behind naming the first title Remake and the second Rebirth. He says, I hope to reveal what the third title will be called and where this journey will ultimately lead. Very interesting stuff. The development of Rebirth has been progressing rapidly since they've adopted a new development structure, and he says that a title of this scale with everything that is interconnected even before production began is truly rare. He says that even some production for the third title has already started. He says he himself has started development and is working towards the completion of the series. So they're going to continue to work on it and whatnot and all that, and expand the world of Final Fantasy VII. Moving up from that, we have another quote. This one from, I'm going to butcher the name, I apologize. It's the director, Naokai Hamaguchi, I believe is how you pronounce it. Again, I apologize if I'm butchering it. Who goes on to say that they're overjoyed that they're able to announce Rebirth, and kind of, you know, just kind of sharing the excitement. The development has already entered full production. The team is highly motivated, and you know, they're working to create a finished game. Final Fantasy VII Remake project will be a 3-part trilogy, says as well. But Final Fantasy Rebirth is much more than just one installment in the series. They're developing it with the passion and dedication needed to create an original game, and plan to deliver the ultimate gameplay and world building experience. So again, you know, if you play the first one, Remake, you're gonna have more of a full story, but you don't necessarily have to. You could just jump into Rebirth and you'll still have a full experience, is what they're explaining. And then finally, we got one more from the producer. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. Okay, I'm not gonna try. It's not gonna embarrass myself. So let's just go read the quote. You can see it at the bottom right corner. Again, just talking about how they've announced Rebirth, and how the original Final Fantasy VII Remake released in 2020, and that, you know, by the time this one releases, it'll be about 3.5 years technically speaking, but anyways, who's counting? I guess I am. But you know, 3 years, you know, says feels like a long time, but they want to offer the best, you know, experience possible, right? So that's why they've been taking their time with it, and that development is proceeding at an astonishingly fast pace for such a large scale HD title. So they're doing really good work on it. and making good progress and good time. He says, making the middle part of a trilogy has its own challenges, but there are plenty of classic second installments in the world of film that are defined by stunning story twists and deeper explorations of the characters. Often, these second installments became a favorite amongst fans. So in the same vein, they're aiming to make Rebirth, excuse me, an even more gripping and memorable experience than Final Fantasy VII Remake. So please wait a little longer while we finish up. So, end quote. So some interesting quotes there. I just want to say really quick is that a lot of people are saying, you know, what is this then? Is it a true remake? I mean, this has been information we've had for quite some time since the first game. It's a reimagining, so it's not necessarily one for one. And Rebirth, if you watch the trailer, it is hinting at the fact that, you know, things might not happen the same way. You hear Cloud talking about the fact to Aerith that Aerith in this other world, I guess they're aware of the other world, the original game, if you will, that she died basically in the original game, and they're talking about that, and they're leaving the door wide open with this kind of well, is that going to happen again? You know what I mean? Because we just don't have any idea. It could go either way. We might see the same things happen, or they might happen, but maybe in a different way, or they might not even happen at all, right? So again, like I said, with Aerith, is she gonna live? Is she gonna survive? Is she gonna still die? And if she dies, does she die in the same way? Does she die in a different way? Do you know what I mean? Because again, it's like hitting replay on something, right? So that's kind of what this game is doing. And then there's also the whole element of that people that do know the original game and the original story, it's going to leave us on the edge of our seats and still not knowing what to expect, because if it was a faithful remake, we already know what's going to happen, right? Except it's just remastered, redone, modern visuals, modern gameplay. But if it's a reimagining, we're left with the question, right? Because it's like, again, we know Aerith dies in the original. Does she die in this one? Does she survive? If she survives, I mean, what does that mean? If she dies, does she die? And there's so many questions. What about Zack? Did Zack survive? Is Zack still kicking it? There's so many questions to ask. So I think it's really exciting. Again, the take that they're kind of the angle that they're taking this on, and I'm really excited to see what they do with this, because again, for a lot of us who knows the original Final Fantasy VII story, we don't know anything about the remake. There's a lot of similarities in a lot of ways, but there's going to be a lot of twists and a lot of things that we're gonna just be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. So I'm excited. Like I said, gonna be playing it here on the channel when it comes out, Lord willing. So keep it locked for that. I'm really excited to play it here. But first, we get Crisis Core remastered later on this year. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys very soon in another one. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, game on.